Snow was falling so thick and heavy that it seemed to swallow all sound. Each snowflake landed without making any noise at all. The snow kept building up layer after layer until everything around them turned into a big white empty space. A frozen swamp stretched out in front of Lieutenant Commander Jackson Hayes and his team of Navy SEALs. It was a dangerous place where water and ice mixed together in ways you could not predict. Tall reeds stood up like skinny guards covered in winter's white blanket. Hayes raised his fist in the air. His whole team stopped moving right away. He looked through the scope on his rifle to check what was ahead of them. The information they got about this mission was not very detailed. They were supposed to chase a group of bad guys called mercenaries. These mercenaries had disappeared into a place that local people called the White Swamp. They had attacked a truck carrying weapons and stolen some important secret information. The SEALs needed to get that information back and stop the bad guys. It seemed like a normal mission, except for one thing that kept bothering Hayes. It was the woman. She stood about 15 feet behind the group. She looked small compared to all the whiteness around her. She was wearing gear that looked too clean and too new. Her jacket did not have any special marks to show what rank she was. A scarf and goggles covered most of her face. When the main headquarters had called on the radio to say that a civilian observer would come with them to study the land, Hayes had expected someone different. He thought they would send some old map expert or an older teacher type of person. Instead, they sent her. She could not have been more than 28 years old, maybe even younger. They called her an observer. Kara Bennett was a name on her papers. Her job title said she was a geospatial analyst, which means someone who studies maps and land features. Her paperwork all looked correct and official, but something about the way she moved made Hayes feel uneasy. She moved in a way that was smooth and careful, like she knew exactly what she was doing. She never tripped, even though the ground was very hard to walk on. She never complained about the freezing cold that had already made 2 of his men lose feeling in their fingers and toes. "Sir, how much further?" Petty Officer Dylan Morrison whispered. His breath made small clouds in the cold air. Hayes looked at his GPS device. 2 clicks to their last known position. Stay sharp. This kind of land is perfect for an ambush. The swamp was like a killing field dressed up in white. Ice formed in uneven patterns on top of the water. In some spots, the ice was thick enough to hold a person's weight. In other spots, it was dangerously thin. Reeds grew thick and tall everywhere. Their stalks were heavy with snow and created natural paths that could trap men in dangerous areas. Sometimes you could see 100 meters ahead, but when the snow started blowing hard, you could barely see 10 meters in front of you. It was perfect for enemies who wanted to hide like ghosts. Behind them, Kara Bennett moved her notebook around in her gloved hands. She was looking at everything around her with an intensity that seemed like too much for someone who was just supposed to be watching. Hayes had caught her drawing earlier. She was not drawing pictures of the land. She was drawing angles for shooting. When he had looked closer, she closed the book. Movement. 3 o'clock. Petty Officer Marcus Chin hissed quietly. The whole team dropped down into fighting positions. Hayes brought his rifle up and looked through the scope. He saw nothing but snow and shadows. The wind got stronger and carried a sound that might have been ice cracking, or it might have been footsteps about 100 meters away. False alarm, Hayes said, but his gut feeling told him something different. They kept moving forward. Each step was like making a deal with the frozen swamp. The ice groaned under their weight. Water seeped up through cracks and immediately froze on their boots. This was not just difficult land to walk on. It was land that seemed like it was actually trying to kill them. Kara moved to the side of the group. Her eyes kept scanning the reeds constantly. Once, Hayes saw her stop and tilt her head like she was listening to something that was hidden by the wind. Then she made a mark in her notebook and kept walking. "That observer bothers you too," Morrison muttered quietly next to Hayes. "She bothers me a lot," Hayes admitted, "but she has permission straight from Special Operations Command. We babysit her and finished the mission. She does not look like she needs babysitting, sir." Hayes had to agree with him. There was something dangerous in the way Kara watched the landscape. It reminded him of how snipers study land. They do not look at it like a map. They look at it like math problems. thinking about angles, distances, and blind spots. The snow got heavier as the afternoon turned into evening. They had been walking for 6 hours, and the cold had become like a heavy weight pressing down on them. Hayes told everyone to stop for 5 minutes near a bunch of frozen reeds that gave them a little bit of cover. Kara stood away from the group, not moving at all, like a statue. When Hayes walked over to her, she did not turn around. "You warm enough?" he asked. "I am fine. We have hot packs if you need them." I said I am fine. Her voice had no emotion in it. It was just a fact. Hayes studied the side of her face. "You done much field work?" "Enough. Because this kind of land can turn dangerous very fast. If you see anything unusual, anything at all, you tell me right away." Now she did turn around. For just a moment, he saw something in her eyes. It looked like she was amused, or maybe she felt sorry for him. "I will command her." She used his rank correctly, even though he had never told her what it was. Before he could ask more questions, Chen's voice came over the radio. "Sir, I've got tracks. Fresh ones. Multiple bad guys heading northeast." The hunt was on. The tracks were easy to see at first. Boot prints in fresh snow, spaced in a way that showed men moving fast but not running. Hayes counted at least 8 different boot patterns, maybe more where the prints overlapped. The mercenaries knew someone was following them, and they had stopped trying to hide where they were going. That worried Hayes more than if they had been careful about hiding their trail. "Could be leading us into an ambush," Sergeant First Class Antonio Rodriguez said, saying out loud what everyone was thinking. "Probably is," Hayes agreed. "Chen and Morrison take point. Spread out for combat. Watch your areas." The team moved forward in a diamond shape, with each man covering a shooting area that overlapped with his teammates. Kara stayed at the back, but Hayes noticed she had shifted her position a little bit. She moved to where she could see the widest view of everything around them. The swamp seemed to close in around them. The reeds here grew taller, creating walls of white-covered stalks that made it hard to see more than a few meters ahead. Ice formations stuck up at strange angles where water had frozen in mid-splash. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every sound was muffled and distorted by the snow. Hayes felt like someone was watching them. "Sir," Chen whispered, "the tracks just stop." Hayes moved forward to look. Chen was right. The clear boot prints they had been following just ended in the middle of a small, open area. There was no sign that the bad guys had walked backward or tried to cover their trail. They just disappeared. "They did not grow wings," Morrison said. "Where the heck did they go?" Hayes looked at the reeds around them. Then he looked up. The tall stalks here were bent inward at the top, making a natural roof. If men had climbed up into the reeds and used them like ladders— "Up!" he shouted. "Enemy above." Gunfire exploded from the reeds themselves. The mercenaries had climbed 15 feet up into the snow-heavy stalks. They had made high shooting positions that gave them perfect angles to shoot down into the kill zone. Muzzle flashes lit up the white air, and bullets cracked past Hayes' head as he dove behind a pile of snow for cover. His team scattered and started shooting back, but the situation was all wrong. The enemy had the advantage of being higher up. They had good hiding spots, and they had clearly planned this ambush perfectly. Every time a SEAL tried to aim at a target, the bad guy would drop deeper into the reeds and hide behind the thick plants. "We need to fall back." Rodriguez shouted over the gunfire. Hayes agreed, but he saw the problem right away. The open area behind them had no cover at all. If they tried to run away, they would be shot down in the open. If they stayed, they would be picked off one by one from above. It was a nightmare situation. Morrison cried out and grabbed his shoulder as blood spread across his white camouflage. "I am hit." Chen dragged him behind a chunk of ice and pressed hard on the wound. The mercenaries started shooting even more, sensing that the SEALs were weakening. Hayes could see what the enemy was planning now. They wanted to keep the team stuck in one place until it got completely dark. Then they would move in for the kill. He pressed his radio button. "Bennett, get down and stay." But Kara was not where he had last seen her. She had moved during the first attack, and now he could not find her anywhere. "Bennett," he called again. No answer. The mercenaries were working together now. 3 of them were shooting to keep the SEALs pinned down, while the others moved in new positions. Hayes saw one bad guy shifting along the reed line, trying to get around to the side of their position. In just a few seconds, he would have a clear shot at Morrison and Chun. Hayes brought his rifle up, but the angle was impossible. The mercenary was using the reeds perfectly, only showing himself for tiny fractions of a second. Then, without any warning, the bad guy jerked backward and fell. The sound of the gunshot came a full second later. It was a deep, powerful crack that rolled across the frozen swamp like thunder. Hayes stared at the fallen mercenary. His trained mind tried to understand what he had just seen. The bad guy lay sprawled in the reeds 20 meters away, not moving. From where Hayes was, he could see where the bullet had hit. It was right in the center of the chest. Perfect shot. But that shot had come from at least 300 meters away, maybe further, through falling snow, through reeds, at an angle that should not have been possible. Who took that shot? He barked into his radio. His team answered one by one. Chun, no. Rodriguez, not me. Morrison, through teeth clenched in pain, was not me, sir. Petty Officer Sarah Vance, their best shooter, shook her head. I had no angle, sir. That shot did not come from our position. Hayes scanned the swamp behind them, trying to find whoever had fired. The shot had to have come from their side. No mercenary would shoot his own teammate, but there was no one back there except Bennett, he said slowly. Where is our observer? Last I saw, she was at the rear, Rodriguez said. Hayes felt a cold feeling in his stomach that had nothing to do with the temperature. He turned on his radio. Bennett, tell me where you are. Just static noise. The mercenaries had stopped shooting. They were clearly confused about losing the man who was trying to sneak around. Hayes could hear them calling to each other in English with Russian accents, trying to figure out what had happened. Then Kara's voice came over the radio, calm as if she was talking about the weather. 2 bad guys are moving to your northeast. A third one is moving to get behind you. Where are you? Hayes demanded. Covering your back, Commander. Before Hayes could say anything else, another shot rang out. One of the mercenaries who had been climbing higher in the reeds suddenly went limp and fell. He crashed through the stalks before hitting the frozen ground with a sickening thud. This time, Hayes tracked where the sound came from. The shot had come from the south, from a small hill of frozen dirt that was barely visible through the snow. It was at least 400 meters away. That was an impossible distance given these conditions. The remaining mercenaries panicked. Their carefully planned ambush had turned into a nightmare. An invisible sniper was picking them off with perfect accuracy, and they had no idea where the shots were coming from. Hayes heard them yelling and saw muzzle flashes as they fired wildly into the reeds, hitting nothing but air and plants. Bad guys are running away, Chin reported. Let them go, Hayes ordered. He had bigger questions that needed answers. The team stayed in position for 5 minutes with their weapons aimed at the reeds, waiting for any sign of another attack. None came. The only sound was the wind and the soft patter of snow on ice. Finally, Hayes pressed his radio button again. Bennett, come to our position now. Roger. She came out of the southern tree line, like a ghost appearing from snow. The way she approached was exactly by the book. She used natural cover, stayed low, and moved when the wind blew up snow to hide her movement. But what struck Hayes was her hands. They were empty. No rifle, no weapon at all except the pistol on her hip. She reached their position and knelt beside Morrison, looking at his wound with practiced skill. Through and through missed the artery. He will be fine with proper treatment. Where's your rifle? Hayes asked. I do not have one. Then who made those shots? Kara looked up at him. Her eyes were impossible to read behind her goggles. What shots? Do not play games with me. 2 bad guys down at ranges over 300 meters. Someone made those shots. And my entire team says it was not them. Maybe one of the mercenaries had bad trigger control. Her tone suggested she knew exactly how silly that sounded. Rodriguez stepped forward. Sir, I tracked where the second shot came from. It came from exactly where she just appeared from. Kara stood up slowly, brushing snow from her knees. She looked at Hayes for a long moment, and he had the clear feeling that he was being judged and measured. Finally, she spoke. You have a wounded man who needs medical help. I suggest we set up a safe area and call for evacuation. I suggest you answer my questions. And I suggest, Commander, that you focus on what you came here to do. There was steel in her voice now, quiet but impossible to miss. Or would you rather stand here arguing while the remaining bad guys regroup? Hayes wanted to push harder. He wanted answers. But she was right. Morrison needed to be taken out of here, and they were still in enemy territory. But this conversation was not over. Fine, we set up here. Rodriguez called in. Chun, help Morrison. Vance, your first watch. He turned to Kara. You and I are going to talk later. I look forward to it. She moved to the edge of their position and pulled out her notebook, drawing something with quick, precise strokes. As Hayes organized a medical evacuation, he could not shake the feeling that he had just missed something very important. That observer was not just observing. Those shots had been professional, world-class. The kind of shooting that should not be possible in these conditions. Who the heck was Kara Bennett? The evacuation helicopter arrived after midnight. Its spinning blades churned the snow into a blinding white storm. They loaded Morrison onto the helicopter with his shoulder wrapped up and held steady. The medic gave a thumbs-up sign. Morrison would make a full recovery. As the helicopter flew away, Hayes gathered what was left of his team. 5 SEALs and 1 civilian observer who was anything but a civilian. The goal of the mission had not changed. The mercenaries still had stolen secret information that could mess up military operations across 3 continents. The bad guys needed to be found and stopped. We move at first light, Hayes said. Get some rest. They set up a cold camp in a group of rocks that blocked some of the wind. There were no fires, no hot food. They just ate freeze-dried food cold in the bone-deep chill of a winter night in the swamp. Hayes took the first watch. He put himself in a spot where he could see both the land around them and Kara Bennett. She sat away from the group with her notebook open. She was writing using the dim glow of a red-filtered pen light. Every so often, she would stop, look up at the darkness, then go back to her notes. At 2 a.m, Rodriguez took over for Hayes, so he could try to sleep. Sleep did not come. He kept seeing those 2 mercenaries falling. He kept hearing that impossible shot cutting through the snow. Dawn came gray and miserable. The snow had stopped, but fog now rolled across the frozen swamp in thick banks. You could not see more than 50 meters ahead, sometimes less. These were perfect conditions for getting lost, for walking into an ambush, for dying without ever seeing who killed you. They moved out in their fighting formation, following the mercenaries' trail heading northeast. The tracks were older now, partly filled with snow, but still readable. Chin guessed they were 6 hours behind the bad guys. Maybe less of the enemies had stopped to rest. An hour into the walk, the trail led them toward a section of swamp that looked especially dangerous. The ice here was thin, covered with a tricky layer of snow that made it impossible to tell solid ground from death traps. Hayes had seen men fall through ice like this before. The cold water would kill you in minutes, even if you managed to pull yourself out. We need to go around, he decided. Too dangerous. Going around will cost us 3 hours, Rodriguez pointed out. The bad guys are getting away. Hayes looked at the land, searching for a safe path. The problem was the fog. It hid everything more than a few meters ahead. One wrong step, and someone would fall through ice into freezing water. Commander, Kara's voice was quiet but firm. He turned around. She had moved to the edge of the ice field and was studying it with that same intense focus he had noticed before. There's a path, she said. What path? I cannot see anything. Trust me. Single file. Step exactly where I step. Hayes wanted to argue, but something in her voice stopped him. It was not pride or showing off. It was certainty. The kind of certainty that came from knowledge, not guessing. Against his better judgment, he nodded. You heard her. Single file. Watch your footing. Kara stepped onto the ice without hesitating. Hayes followed, every nerve in his body screaming that the ice would crack, that they would all fall through. But the ice held. She moved with complete confidence, following a path that seemed random but somehow avoided every weak spot. How do you know where to step? Chun asked from behind him. The snow pattern, Kara said without turning around. See how it is a little higher in some places? That means thicker ice underneath. And the color, see how it is grayer here versus white there? Gray means solid. Pure white can mean air pockets. Hayes looked and realized she was right. But those were tiny differences, the kind of thing that took years of experience to notice, especially in these conditions. You have done this before, he said. Once or twice. They crossed the ice field in 15 minutes and reached solid ground on the other side. Hayes felt his heart rate go back to normal. Behind them, the path they had taken seemed to disappear in the fog, completely unmarked. Vance caught up to Hayes. Her expression was troubled. Sir, that was some next-level pathfinding. I have trained in Arctic warfare. Those things she mentioned, most people never learn to spot them. I know. So who is she? Hayes had no answer, but his suspicions were hardening into certainty. That woman was not a map analyst. She was military, highly trained, and whoever had sent her on this mission had hidden her true job on purpose. The question was why. They pushed deeper into the swamp. The mercenaries' trail became fresher. 4 hours old, then 3. The bad guys were slowing down, either from being tired or because they thought they had lost the people chasing them. At 2 in the afternoon, they stopped for a quick break. Hayes pulled Kara to the side. Level with me, he said quietly. You are not just an observer. She looked right at him. My papers are real. That is not what I asked. Then maybe you should ask better questions, Commander. Fine. Where did you learn Arctic tracking? Books? And those shots yesterday? Already told you. It was not me. Hayes stepped closer and lowered his voice. I am responsible for my team's lives. If you are hiding something that could mess up this mission or put my men in danger, I need to know now. For a moment, something crossed Kara's face. It was not anger or fear. It was something harder to name. Maybe respect. Your team is safer with me here than without me, she said finally. That is all you need to know. Before Hayes could push further, Chen's urgent whisper came over the radio. Movement ahead. Multiple contacts. They have stopped to make camp. The mercenaries had led them straight to their base. Hayes crawled forward to where Chun had set up a watching spot behind a snow-covered log. Through binoculars, he could see the mercenary camp 200 meters ahead. It was a quickly built position using the natural land. They had picked their spot well. They were on a small hill where frozen reeds gave them hiding spots, and the ice field of seals had just cross-protected them from the south. I count 6 bad guys, Chin whispered. Maybe more inside that shelter they put together. Hayes studied the camp. It was a professional setup. The shooting areas overlapped. Escape routes were marked with sticks barely visible in the snow. These were not regular criminals. They were trained, disciplined, and paranoid. The kind of hired soldiers who did secret jobs that never made the news. Sir, if we wait until dark, we can use the fog for cover, Rodriguez suggested. Hayes thought about it. Darkness would give them an advantage, but it would also give the mercenaries time to move to a new location. Or worse, time for backup to arrive. Movement caught his eye. Kara had circled around without him noticing. She was now in a position 30 meters to their left, a little higher up on a rocky area. She had taken off her white jacket, showing darker clothes underneath. Through his scope, Hayes could see she was studying the camp with the same intensity she had given the ice field. He pressed his radio button. Bennett, get back here. She did not answer. She did not even act like she heard him. Dang it, Hayes muttered. Chun, Vance, you two move to protect our left side. Rodriguez, you are with me. We are going to have a talk with our observer. They had moved maybe 10 meters when the first shot rang out. But this time, it was not Kara saving them. It was someone else shooting at them. The bullet passed so close to Hayes' head that he felt the pressure in the air. He dropped to the ground instantly. Chun! And Rodriguez did the same. More shots followed. A heavy attack from multiple angles. The mercenaries had spotted them. Contact! Rodriguez shouted as bullets tore through the snow around them. Hayes saw the trap right away. The camp they had been watching was a fake. The real ambush had been waiting for them to get close enough to attack. Now bad guys were coming out of hidden spots they had prepared hours ago. These spots gave them perfect shooting angles on Hayes' team. Fall back to the tree line, Hayes ordered. But the mercenaries had planned for that too. Gunfire exploded from behind them. A blocking force had somehow gotten behind them during their approach. They were boxed in. Hayes' mind raced through options. They were pinned down in a kill zone with almost no cover. The fog that should have helped them now hid enemy movement. His team was outnumbered, in a bad position and running out of time. A bullet hit the log next to Chun, spraying with splinters. Another round snapped past Vance's head. The mercenaries were finding their range, walking their fire toward the SEAL positions with professional skill. "We need to break contact now," Rodriguez said, already reaching for a smoke grenade. Then Hayes saw him, a mercenary sniper, partly hidden in the reeds 80 meters away. The man was getting ready for a shot. His rifle was tracking toward Rodriguez. Hayes brought his own weapon up, but the angle was wrong. The sniper was too well protected by natural cover. Time seemed to slow down. Hayes saw the sniper's finger tighten on the trigger. He saw Rodriguez turn, not knowing about the danger. He saw the rifle barrel line up. Kara moved like lightning from her higher position. In one smooth motion, she grabbed Hayes by his vest and yanked him down with surprising strength. The shot that was meant for Rodriguez passed through the space where Hayes' head had been just a split second before. She had known. She had seen the sniper aiming at Rodriguez, but had figured out that the next shot would move to Hayes. She had moved before the bad guy even finished changing his aim. Impossible reflexes. Impossible awareness. "Stay down," she said. Her voice was completely calm, even though bullets were flying through the air around them. Before Hayes could understand what had happened, another shot echoed across the swamp. The enemy sniper jerked and fell from his spot. His rifle clattered onto the ice. Hayes twisted around, trying to find where the shot came from. Nothing, just fog and snow and chaos. "There," Chin shouted, pointing toward the tree line 200 meters west. A muzzle flash, the distinctive crack of a powerful rifle. Another mercenary dropped. Someone was out there. Someone with a precision rifle and world-class skills. Someone who was carefully taking apart the ambush that should have killed them all. Kara stayed beside Hayes. Her face showed no expression, but he saw her eyes tracking the battlefield. Her head made tiny movements as if following something invisible. She was following the unseen sniper's next shot before it even happened. "Who the heck is shooting?" Vance demanded over the radio. Hayes looked at Kara. She looked back. In that moment, he knew. "It is not possible," he breathed. "What is not possible, Commander?" The mercenaries were breaking. Their carefully planned ambush had turned into a nightmare. An invisible shooter was tearing them apart. Every time they tried to find a threat, another one of their group fell. Panic was spreading. Hayes could hear it in their shouted orders. He could see it in their increasingly wild movements. "Bad guys pulling back," Rodriguez reported. But Hayes barely heard him. He was staring at Kara, this woman who moved like she could see the future, who had somehow known exactly where every shot would come from, who had saved his life with reflexes that should not exist. "The shots," he said slowly, "they are not coming from 200 meters out. They are closer, much closer." Kara said nothing. "You knew where that sniper was before he fired. You pulled me down before he changed his aim. You are tracking something I cannot see." Still nothing. Hayes grabbed her arm. "Who are you?" She looked at his hand on her arm, then back to his face. When she spoke, her voice was soft but carried complete authority. "Right now, Commander, I'm the only reason your team is still breathing. I suggest you focus on making your position safe before the bad guys regroup." She pulled away and moved back to her higher position. She left Hayes with more questions than answers and the absolute certainty that nothing about this mission was what it seemed. The firefight ended as suddenly as it had started. The surviving mercenaries disappeared into the swamp. They left behind 4 bodies and a camp full of equipment they had abandoned in their panic. Hayes called for a security sweep while his mind churned through what he had seen. 6 bad guys down, for killed by the mysterious sniper. 2 by his own team's return fire. and Kara Bennett standing there like she had just watched a practice exercise. Not a close-range battle that should have killed them all. "Sir, camp is secure," Rodriguez reported. "Found the intelligence package. Looks like it was not damaged." "Good. Set up a perimeter. No one moves without my permission." Hayes walked straight toward Kara. She stood on the rocky area, writing in that annoying notebook again. "Shun," and Rodriguez stood behind him without being asked. Van stayed on guard duty, but her attention was clearly focused on what was about to happen. "We need to talk," Hayes said. "Now." Kara looked up from her notes. "About what?" "About who just saved our lives. About those 6 impossible shots. About how you knew exactly where every enemy sniper was positioned." He stepped closer. "About why a supposed civilian analyst moves like special operations and has reflexes I have never seen outside of top-level operators." "Those are interesting observations, Commander. They are not observations. They are facts. And I want answers." Hayes pointed at the swamp around them. "There's no one else out here. No support team. No hidden shooters. Which means either we just saw a bunch of lucky coincidences, or you are lying about who you are." Kara closed her notebook carefully and stood up. For the first time since the mission started, Hayes saw something other than calm blankness in her expression. Not fear or anger. Decision, like she had just made a choice she could not take back. "You want the truth, Commander? That would be nice." She reached inside her jacket and pulled out a black leather case with identification papers. When she opened it, Hayes felt the ground shift beneath him. The identification was real. He could tell by the special seals, the computer chips that marked it as genuine Department of Defense issue. But what made his stomach drop were the details printed there. Name, Kara Elizabeth Bennett. Rank, 05. Commander, United States Navy. Current assignment, Special Operations Command, Maritime Sniper Division. Security clearance, TS/SCI with special access programs. 05. Commander, the same rank as Hayes himself. Possibly earned even younger given how old she looked. "I do not understand," Jin said, looking over Hayes' shoulder. "You are a commander?" "I am," Kara said simply. Rodriguez shook his head. "But you are young," Kara supplied. "Female? Smaller than you expected?" There was no heat in her words. Just statement of fact. "I get that a lot." Hayes stared at the identification. His mind tried to match the quiet observer who had said maybe 20 words in 2 days with fellow 05 from Special Operations Command. "Why the heck did you not tell us?" "Because my mission rules require me to evaluate your team's abilities under real combat conditions. If you had known my rank, it would have changed how you acted." "Evaluation?" Van spoke up from her position. "We are being tested?" "You were," Kara corrected. Past tense. The evaluation ended when the situation became a real firefight, and I had to step in. She looked at each of them in turn. "For the record, you all performed at or above expected standards." Hayes felt anger rising. "People could have died. People do die, Commander. That is the nature of our job." Kara's voice stayed level. "But statistically, your team was safer with me here than they would have been alone. I have been providing protection from a distance since we entered the swamp. Those shots." Hayes heard his own voice sounding hollow. "That was you?" "Yes." "From where?" "We never saw a hiding position. Never saw you break away with a rifle." For the first time, Kara smiled. "It was slight, barely visible, but real." "You would not. That is why they call me Ghost." Chen's eyes got wide. "Ghost? As in the ghost of White Swamp?" "That is an urban legend. A story snipers tell to scare each other. I am very real, petty officer." Rodriguez laughed. "It sounded a little crazy." "This is insane. The ghost sniper is supposedly some phantom who can hit targets from 2,000 meters in blizzard conditions through fog with basic sights. It is impossible." Carr's expression did not change. 1,943 meters through snow and fog with Schmidt and Bender PM2 scope, not basic sights. And it was not impossible. It was a real operation that stopped a high-value target from escaping across the Russian border. Silence fell across the team. Hayes studied her face, looking for any sign of lying or bragging. He found neither, just a calm statement of what she could do. "Show us," he said quietly. "You say you made those shots. Prove it. Show us your hiding spot. Show us the rifle." Kara looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Follow me," and try to keep up. She led them south, back toward the ice field they had crossed earlier. Hayes watched her movement with new understanding. The efficient walk, the constant looking around, the way she used land for cover even in a safe area. This was muscle memory. Training so deep it had become automatic. They reached the rocky area where Kara had been during the firefight. From here, you could clearly see the mercenary camp, maybe 300 meters away, slightly higher up. Good position for watching, but not for the kind of precise shooting they had seen. "This is where you watch from," Hayes said, "but not where you shot from." "Correct." She moved to a group of snow-covered rocks 20 meters past the outcrop. At first look, it seemed like natural land. But as Hayes got closer, he saw the subtle signs. A dip in the snow that had been carefully kept up. Ice chips arranged to look like a natural wall. A small gap between two rocks that gave a narrow shooting lane. Kara reached into the gap and pulled out a rifle case wrapped in white camouflage netting. She laid it on a flat rock and opened it carefully. The weapon inside made Hayes catch his breath. It was a custom-built precision rifle that probably cost more than he made in a year. A .338 Lapua Magnum with a carbon fiber barrel. A Schmidt and Bender scope that looked like it belonged on a satellite. And modifications Hayes could not even identify. The entire weapon was coated in white and gray, designed to disappear against snow and fog. "This is Miranda," Kara said, running her hand along the barrel with something close to love. "She has been with me for 4 years. 236 confirmed eliminations across 7 areas of operation." Vance whistled quietly. "That is not a standard weapon. No, it is built to my exact specifications, tuned how I like things, maintained by exactly one person. Me." Kara picked up the rifle with practiced ease, checking the chamber automatically, even though Hayes could tell she knew it was empty. "The longest shot I have made with her was the one Chin mentioned, 1,943 meters. But my average shooting range is 12 to 1,400 meters. That is impossible in these conditions," Rodriguez protested. "Wind, fog, temperature. It is extremely difficult," Kara corrected. "Not impossible. And it requires thinking about things most people do not consider. The way snow affects bullets. How fog bends light and makes distances look wrong. The difference between shooting over ice versus water versus frozen ground." She looked at Hayes. "I have spent 8 years training for places exactly like this. Cold weather, low visibility, moving targets who know someone is hunting them. It is what I do, Commander. It is what I am exceptionally good at." Hayes believed her. Everything he had seen over the past 2 days suddenly made sense. The easy navigation through deadly land, the impossible awareness of threats, the way she had known exactly when and where to move during the ambush. She had not been lucky. She had been operating on a completely different level than the rest of them. "Why send you undercover?" he asked. "Why not just tell us that we would have SOCM sniper support?" "Because the real mission was not just getting rid of the mercenaries," Kara said quietly. "It was finding out if your team was ready to move to black operations. The kind that do not officially exist. The kind that require trust in teammates whose abilities you might not fully understand." She put the rifle back in its case. "Headquarters needed to know if you could adjust to unusual support, if you could handle situations that did not match your training or expectations, if you could trust your people even when things did not make sense." And Hayes found himself holding his breath. Kara smiled, a real smile this time, warm and genuine. "You pass, Commander. All of you. You question things, which shows healthy tactical thinking. But you did not panic. You did not freeze. And when things went wrong, you adapted and survived." She held out her hand. "It is an honor to serve with you." Hayes took her hand, feeling the rough spots that marked her as a shooter. The firm grip that matched his own. "The honor is ours, Commander. Though I wish you had trusted us from the start. Trust is not given, Commander Hayes. It is earned. And now we have earned it together." Night came fast in the swamp. Darkness falling like a curtain at 5 in the evening. Hayes set up a defensive area around the abandoned mercenary camp, while Kara studied the intelligence package they had recovered. There were encrypted hard drives, maps marked with locations across 3 continents, and communication equipment that looked military-grade. "This is bigger than we thought," she said, looking at a satellite phone. These mercenaries were not just thieves who saw an opportunity. They were part of a planned operation. How planned? Very. She showed him the phone screen. They had been talking to people in Syria, Ukraine, and the South China Sea. Whatever they stole from that convoy, it was supposed to be sent around the world. Hayes felt a cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. What kind of secret information is worth that much work to spread around? The kind that messes up operations where we have people undercover right now. The kind that gets our people killed. Kara's jaw tightened. "We need to get this package out of here right away. Get it to the analyst before anyone else comes looking for it." As if on cue, Rodriguez's voice crackled over the radio. "Commander, I've got movement. East side of our perimeter. Multiple heat signatures." Hayes grabbed his rifle and moved to Rodriguez's position. Through his night vision, he could see heat signatures in the trees 200 meters away. At least a dozen, maybe more. "The survivors call for backup," Kara said beside him. She had appeared silently. Her own night vision was lowered, and they brought friends. "How many?" 15 to 20. "I am seeing professional spacing, disciplined movement. These are not more mercenaries. This is a cleanup crew." Hayes pressed his team radio button. "All positions, get ready for contact. We have company." The heat signatures stopped at the tree line. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then a voice called out in clear English with a slight Eastern European accent. "American soldiers, you have something that belongs to our employers. Give us the package and you can leave this place alive." Hayes did not bother answering. Any talking was a trap designed to learn about their numbers and positions. "We know you are few," the voice continued. "We know at least one of you is wounded. This does not have to end in more death. Simply leave the package and go away. You have my word. You will not be chased." Kara snorted softly. "His word. That is precious. You know this guy?" "Mikhail Varnin, former Russian Spetsnaz, current head of private military operations for a company that does not officially exist. He is very good at what he does. And what he does is get rid of problems." She checked her rifle. "His word means absolutely nothing." "Commander Hayes," Varnin called again. "I know you can hear me. I am a reasonable man. Shall we talk about terms?" This time, Hayes did answer. "The only talk is your complete surrender. You have 60 seconds to give up." Laughter echoed across the snow. Brave words from a man who is surrounded. "But I respect courage, so I give you one final chance. The package, or we come and take it. And we will not be gentle." 60 seconds starts now, Hayes said. Silence fell. Hayes used the time to think about their situation. His team had the high ground, barely. They had the camp supplies and defensive positions. But they were outnumbered 3-1, low on bullets after the earlier fight, and facing enemies who knew exactly what they were after. "They will hit us from multiple angles," Kara said, reading his thoughts. "Varnin's specialty is coordinated attacks. He will keep us busy from the front while flankers move through the swamp to get behind us. Can you snipe in the dark against targets I cannot see until they are right on top of us?" She thought about it. "I can take maybe 3 or 4 before they adjust and start using smoke or heat camouflage. After that, it is close combat." Hayes made a decision. "Then we do not let it get to close combat." Rodriguez, Chin, rigged the camp edge with every claymore mine and trip wire we have got. "Vance, you are main gunner on the M249. Lay down covering fire on my command. Kara, you take the high position and pick your shots carefully. Make every bullet count." "What about you, sir?" Chin asked. "I am going to give Varnin something to think about besides sneaking around us." The 60 seconds ran out. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the forest exploded with muzzle flashes as Varnin's men opened fire from a dozen spots at once. Bullets tore through the camp. Equipment shattered. Fabric shelters ripped apart. Snow and ice sprayed everywhere. But Hayes' team was not in the camp anymore. They had fallen back to backup positions they had prepared while Varnin was talking. The Russians were shooting at empty space. Now, Hayes ordered. The Claymore mines went off in a row, turning the eastern approach into a death zone. Screams echoed through the night. Vance opened up with the squad automatic weapon. Her tracer rounds cut red lines through the darkness toward the enemy positions. From her high hiding spot, Kara began firing. The deep boom of her rifle was different from the lighter cracks of automatic fire. Each shot was deliberate, spaced several seconds apart, and each shot found a target. Hayes could hear the pattern of enemy fire changing as shooters went silent. 2 flankers moving through the reeds. South side, 15 meters from Rodriguez's position, Kara called over the radio. Rodriguez shifted. His rifle tracked the area. I did not see them. Trust me. 3 meters left of that bent reed. Fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark. Rodriguez fired. A body crashed through the reeds. Second target moving right. 10 meters. Fire. Another burst. Another body down. Hayes was amazed at how Kara was calling out shots she should not be able to see. She was guiding Rodriguez to targets invisible in the darkness. She was not just a sniper. She was running the entire defense like a conductor leading an orchestra. Varnon's attack fell apart as his carefully planned assault broke down under precise defensive fire. Hayes heard him shouting orders in Russian, trying to get his men organized again. But the confusion from the minefields, the unexpected fight, and the presence of a sniper who seemed to see through darkness had broken their push forward. They are pulling back, Chin reported. Do not celebrate yet, Kara said. Varnon does not retreat. He adapts. She was right. The gunfire stopped, but Hayes could still see heat signatures moving in the trees. Repositioning. Planning something new. Commander, Kara's voice had an edge. I am picking up a new signature. Big. Moving slow. About 400 meters out. What kind of signature? The kind that says Varnon brought heavy weapons. As if to prove her point, a streak of light arced through the night sky. RPG. Incoming. Hayes dove for cover as the rocket-propelled grenade slammed into the center of the camp. The explosion was massive. Debris and burning pieces flew in all directions. A second RPG followed, then a third. They are finding our range, Rodriguez shouted over the roar of explosions, trying to pin us down for another attack. Hayes saw the plan. Varnon was using the RPGs to destroy their defensive positions and create chaos. Once their cover was gone, he would send his men in for close combat, where having more people would win. They needed to take out that RPG position fast. Kara, can you hit the launcher? Not from this angle. Too much land between us. A pause. But I can get to an angle where I have a shot. How long? 3 minutes. Maybe 4. We do not have 4 minutes. Then I better run fast. Before Hayes could respond, Kara was moving. She came down from her hiding spot like a ghost. The heavy rifle was strapped across her back. She sprinted toward the southern tree line. Her movement was impossibly fast for someone carrying that much gear in deep snow. Covering fire, Hayes ordered, "Give her room to move." Vance and Chin opened up, forcing Varnon's men to stay down. Rodriguez threw smoke grenades to create visual cover. Through the chaos, Hayes watched Kara disappear into the darkness. Another RPG streaked in. This one was close enough that Hayes felt the pressure wave. The blast threw him backward. His ears were ringing. He came up firing, trying to find the launcher's position through the smoke and snow. Then, cutting through all the noise, he heard it. The distinctive crack of Kara's rifle. 1 shot, 2, 3 in quick succession. The RPG position went silent. Target down. Kara's calm voice came over the radio. Launcher destroyed. 3 operators down. Varnon's assault collapsed. Without heavy weapon support and facing a defensive position that seemed to have eyes everywhere, his men started a fighting retreat back into the forest. Hayes let them go. Chasing them into the darkness would be suicide. Within minutes, the swamp was quiet again. The only sound was a crackle of small fires from the RPG blasts. Status report. Hayes called. His team checked in one by one. Minor injuries. Ammunition running low. But everyone could still fight. They had survived. "Sir, something is moving out there," Chin said. Single heat signature coming from where Kara went. Hayes raised his rifle, then lowered it as Kara came out of the smoke. She walked with the same efficient stride. Her rifle was still smoking slightly from the rapid fire. When she reached their position, Hayes saw she was limping a little. "You are hurt." "Twisted my ankle running through the dark," she said like it was nothing important. "I will survive. The RPG crew will not." "How did you take out 3 operators and a heavy weapon in under 4 minutes? Kara smiled that slight smile again. "Practice, Commander. Lots and lots of practice." She looked at the damage camp. Her expression turned serious. "Varnin will regroup. He is too professional to give up after one failed attack. We need extraction now, before he comes back with even more firepower." Hayes nodded. "Rodriguez, get Sockham on the line. Tell them we have the package and need immediate evacuation. Hostile contact ongoing." As Rodriguez made the call, Hayes looked at Kara, really looked at her. This young woman who had put up with 2 days of people questioning what she could do without complaining, who had saved his team multiple times without wanting credit, who had just done a combat move that would be taught in sniper schools for decades. "You could have told us your rank at any time," he said quietly. "Could have taken command. Why did you not?" "Because that is not leadership, Commander. Real leadership is proving yourself through what you do, not through papers." She met his eyes. "Besides, you're doing fine. I was just backup that saved our lives. That is what backup is for." The rescue helicopter came in fast at 3 a.m. Its pilots were pushing the aircraft to top speed under orders from someone high up in the chain of command. Hayes watched over the loading of the intelligence package while his team set up a security area around them. Every minute felt like an hour as they waited for Varnin to launch another attack. But the attack never came. Either the Russians had truly gone away, or Kara's devastating counterattack had convinced them the package was not worth losing more men. As the medical team took care of minor wounds and the pilots got ready to take off, a new person came out of the back of the helicopter. He was a Navy captain in winter warfare gear. His chest was heavy with ribbons that told stories of decades in special operations. "Commander Hayes," the captain said, holding out his hand. "Captain David Merchant, Sockham Theater Command. Heck of a job out there." "Thank you, sir." Though most of the credit belongs to Hayes, turned to point at Kara, but she had stepped away. She was suddenly very interested in checking equipment. Merchant smiled. "Yes, I am well aware of Commander Bennett's contributions. That is actually why I am here." He waved for Hayes to follow him away from the rest of the team. Once they were far enough that no one could hear, Merchant's expression turned serious. "What I am about to tell you is classified above your current clearance. But given what you just went through, you have earned the right to know. That observer mission was real, Hayes. We did need to evaluate your team's readiness for black operations. But that was only half the story. What is the other half, sir? The mercenaries you were tracking. They were a distraction, a test, if you will. The real target was always going to be Varnin's cleanup crew. We have been trying to catch him in the act for 3 years. The man is like smoke, always there, but never where you can grab him." Hayes felt the pieces clicking into place. "You used us as bait." "We used a dangerous situation to create an opportunity," Merchant corrected. "The intelligence package those mercenaries stole was real and extremely important. We needed it back, but we also needed Varnin to use his resources to show us how his network works. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And Commander Bennett?" Merchant's expression softened. "Bennett is special. She is the youngest 05 in Sockham history. Made commander at 27 based on pure excellence in the field. 8 years in maritime special operations. 100% mission success rate across 43 operations. She is what we call a force multiplier. One operator who can change the outcome of an entire mission." He nodded toward Kara, who was helping Rodriguez pack gear. She specifically volunteered for this operation, said she had trained her entire career for cold weather, long-range shooting, and wanted to test herself against Varnin's crew. I thought she was crazy. He shook his head in wonder. But after reviewing the combat video from your helmet cameras, that performance was extraordinary. Taking out 3 operators and a crew-served weapon while running through a dark, enemy swamp with a twisted ankle. That is the kind of thing that becomes legend. Why hide her rank from us? Because the enemy was watching. Varnin's intelligence network would have noticed a Sockham commander being put with a SEAL team, but a civilian analyst? Completely invisible. By the time they figured out what they were facing, it was too late. Merchant pulled out a tablet and showed Hayes a satellite picture. This is from 2 hours ago. See those heat signatures moving away from your position? That is what is left of Varnon's crew. They are scattered, disorganized, and running for the border. You did not just survive their ambush. You broke them. Hayes studied the picture, seeing the story it told. A coordinated military force reduced the panicked individuals running through the wilderness. Will they come back? Not anytime soon. We already have teams moving to catch them at known crossing points. Thanks to your mission, we have identified at least 15 operators in Varnon's network. It is the biggest intelligence we have had against this organization in years. The captain held out his hand again. Your team performed exceptionally, Commander. The evaluation report will say that. You'll be hearing about new opportunities in the coming weeks. Thank you, sir. But I would like to make a request. Name it. If those opportunities involve working with Commander Bennett again, I would consider an honor. Merchant smiled. I will make a note of that. Now, get your people on board. We need to be out of this airspace before sunrise. Hayes walked back to the helicopter, where his team was getting on. Kara was the last one waiting, standing apart from the others. Her rifle case was slung over one shoulder. Despite the tiredness that had to be pulling at her, she stood straight and professional. Thank you, Hayes said simply, for watching over us, for pulling me out of the way of that shot, for everything. Kara nodded. You would have done the same. I hope so, but I doubt I could have done it as well. She smiled. You would be surprised what you can do. Commander, I have been watching you for 2 days. You are a good leader. Your team trusts you. That is rarer than you think. I learned something out here, Hayes said, about making assumptions, about underestimating people based on what they look like or how they present themselves. You could have thrown your rank around, demanded respect. Instead, you earned it. Rank is just a number. Commander, respect is currency. You cannot spend what you have not earned. The helicopter's engines got louder. The crew chief waved at them to hurry up. Time to go. As they climbed aboard, Hayes took one last look at the frozen swamp. Somewhere out, there were the bodies of men who had underestimated the SEAL team, who had underestimated the small woman now sitting across from him, calmly taking apart her rifle for after-mission cleaning. The helicopter lifted off, banking away from the white swamp. As dawn began to break through the window, Hayes could see the land they had fought across. Ice fields that could kill with one wrong step, reeds that hit a dozen death traps, fog that turned the world into a maze. Beautiful and deadly in equal measure. Chin leaned across the aisle toward Kara. Commander Bennett, can I ask you something? Sure. That shot you made, the one that saved Rodriguez. How far was that? Kara thought for a moment. 473 meters. Why? And you made it through fog at night with a twisted ankle while running? Yes. Chin shook his head slowly. How is that even possible? Kara looked at him, then at the rest of the team watching her. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of hard-won experience. Every shot is impossible until you make it. Every mission cannot be won until you win it. The difference between success and failure is not physical ability. It is mental. It is believing you can do something so completely that failure never enters your mind. She finished putting her rifle back together with practiced skill. I have been training for shots like that since I was 18. 10,000 hours of practice. 20,000 hours of study. Learning to read wind in conditions where you cannot see wind. Learning to judge distance when your eyes lie to you. Learning to control breathing, heartbeat, muscle tension down to the tiniest movement. But still, Vance said, 400 meters through fog. The fog actually helped, Kara said. It creates smooth flow patterns that are more predictable than open-air movement. Once you learn to read them, they're almost like road signs pointing toward your target. The team took this in silently. Hayes could see them rethinking everything they thought they knew about long-range shooting, about what was possible with enough dedication and skill. You really are the ghost, Rodriguez said quietly. Kara's expression softened. That is what they call me. But I prefer to think of myself as just a shooter who refuses to miss when it matters. When lives depend on that shot connecting, failure stops being an option. You find a way. The helicopter crossed into friendly airspace as the sun broke over the horizon. The endless snow turned into fields of diamond light. Hayes watched Kara looking out the window, her face thoughtful. He wondered how many other missions she had completed that would never be talked about. How many other operators she had saved from positions they never knew she was in. Captain Merchant had called her a force multiplier. Hayes thought it was more than that. She was proof that excellence could come in unexpected packages. That assumptions were dangerous. That the most deadly operators were not always the biggest or loudest. Sometimes they were the quiet ones who said little, observed everything, and struck with devastating precision when the moment demanded it. The helicopter touched down at a secure forward operating base as full daylight broke. Medical people rushed forward to check the team, but Hayes waved them toward his men first. He was fine, tired, cold, and running on fumes, but fine. Kara stepped off the helicopter last, moving with that same smooth grace despite the twisted ankle. A medic tried to guide her toward a waiting ambulance, but she shook her head and limped toward a Humvee where officers were waiting. Hayes caught up to her before she reached the vehicle. Commander Bennett. She turned. Commander Hayes. I just wanted to say... He paused, searching for the right words. The next time someone asks me what peak performance looks like, I am going to tell them about a young woman who ran through a dark swamp and made an impossible shot because her team needed her to. Kara's expression did not change, but something flickered in her eyes. Appreciation, maybe, or respect. Do not oversell it, Commander. I was just doing my job. Your job involved twisting your ankle, running 400 meters through enemy territory, and making a shot that 99% of snipers could not make under perfect conditions. That is not just doing your job. That is redefining what the job can be. She looked at him for a long moment, then held out her hand. It was an honor serving with you and your team. You are good operators, better than good, and you passed every test we threw at you with flying colors. Hayes took her hand. If you ever need backup on another mission, any mission, my team and I will be honored to watch your back. I will remember that. She let go of his hand and started to turn away, then stopped. Commander, one more thing. Yes. You asked me once why I did not tell you my rank earlier. Why I did not take command. She smiled slightly. The truth is, you never needed me to take command. You were doing everything right, making the correct tactical decisions, taking care of your people. All I had to do was handle the things you could not. The long-range decision work, the land analysis, the counter-sniper operations. She pointed at his team who were being checked over by medical people. Leadership is not about doing everything yourself. It is about bringing together people who add each other's skills. You did that naturally. That is why I am recommending your entire team for Black Operations clearance. Not because you survived. Anyone can survive with luck, but because you thrived under conditions that would break most units. Hayes felt pride surge through him, coming from her, from someone who had just shown world-class skill under the worst possible conditions. That recommendation meant everything. Thank you, Commander. Thank you, Commander Hayes. Stay safe out there. She climbed into the Humvee, and it drove away toward the base's secret section. Hayes watched until it disappeared around a corner, taking with it the woman who had proven that legends could be real. Rodriguez walked up beside him, arm in a sling, but otherwise healthy. Sir, is it true what I heard Captain Merchant saying? That she is only 27? That is what he said. 27, and already a commander. That is... Rodriguez shook his head. That is unprecedented. It is... But after watching her work, I believe she earned every bit of that rank. Hayes looked at his assembled team. I learned something important on this mission, gentlemen. And one day, when you are all running your own teams, I want you to remember it. What is that, sir? Chen asked. Never, ever underestimate someone based on their appearance or their age or any other surface characteristic. The most dangerous operator in any area might be the one you least expect. The one who looks too young, too small, too quiet. Judge people by their actions and their results. Nothing else. Vance nodded slowly. The ghost. She really is out there. She is, Hayes confirmed, and thank God she is on our side. They walked toward the medical tent together. The adrenaline was finally wearing off and tiredness was setting in. Behind them, The sun continued to rise over the distant white swamp. Its light sparkled off the snow and ice like scattered diamonds. Somewhere in that frozen wilderness, the evidence of their battle was already being covered by new snowfall. The blood would freeze. The spent bullet casings would sink into the ice. The footprints would disappear under fresh powder. Within days, it would look like nothing had ever happened there. Just another empty swamp in winter. But Hayes knew the truth. In that deadly landscape, his team had been tested by the best and proven themselves worthy. They had worked alongside a legend who had saved their lives more times than they knew. They had survived because of skill, determination, and the quiet presence of a woman who could predict the enemy's moves before they made them. 3 days later, Hayes received an encrypted message marked, "Eyes Only." It contained a single paragraph and a photograph. The paragraph read, "Mission successful. Intelligence package contained critical data that prevented 3 imminent operations against U.S. interests. Varnin's network suffered catastrophic losses. 14 operators captured or neutralized. Recommend all personnel involved for commendation. Exceptional performance under extreme conditions. Merchant." The photograph showed a snow-covered ridge at sunset. In the foreground, partly buried in snow, was a single spent .338 Lapua Magnum casing. In the background, barely visible to the fading light, was a figure in white camouflage disappearing into the trees. No face visible. No identifying marks. Just the ghost vanishing back into legend. Hayes printed the photo and pinned it to his wall. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder that excellence came in many forms. That assumptions were the enemy of clear thinking. That somewhere out there, watching over operations he would never hear about, was a young woman who had redefined what peak performance looked like. And if he was very lucky, maybe someday he would get to work with her again. But even if he did not, he would carry the lessons of the white swamp forward. The knowledge that the impossible was just the difficult not yet attempted. That the best operators were not always the ones who shouted loudest or dominated every conversation. Sometimes they were the quiet ones, the observers, the ghosts who only showed their true abilities when lives hung in the balance and failure was not an option. Commander Kara Bennett, 05, Maritime Sniper Division, the Ghost of White Swamp, a legend proven real. And somewhere out in the frozen darkness, invisible to everyone except her targets, she was already preparing for the next mission, the next impossible shot, the next moment when someone would ask, "Who took that shot?" And the answer would once again be the one person no one saw coming.